Boy, that was the biggest issue with flying internationally. How does aircraft pressurization work? You would disable one piece of instrumentation after another. All right, question number one comes from Pie Killer. If you were flying a commercial jetliner and hypothetically lost all instruments and communication, but the engines and flight controls still worked, how would you go about landing the plane? I've heard about pilots of small airplanes navigating by watching roads and guessing altitudes. Yeah, the answer to that is yes, you would have to do that. When I was training for the military, part of my training as an initial student was going into the simulator, and I had this great instructor, and he would disable one piece of instrumentation after another until you were down to just like your needle ball, which wasn't electric at all. It was just a ball and a piece of fluid in your clock. It was ridiculous like that. And you could still fly the airplane without any visual references outside. So you're going to do whatever you need to do to fly that airplane. You're going to set known power settings. You're going to set known, nose attitudes so that the airplane is kind of flying at an airspeed you think it's flying at. Then you're going to follow the roads around to wherever you find the airport and land. So have people done this in the past? Absolutely. They've done it. Would it ever happen to the commercial airliners? Not very probable at all. Is it possible? Sure it is. But again, our training would help us along with this. But that wonderful question. All right. Hi, Captain Steve. I enjoy watching someone who clearly loves their job. I do. I love flying for the airlines, even after so many years. All right. My question relates to physical wear and tear. Spending decades crossing time zones and flying with both day and night schedules. Is your body clock still in sync? It never was. And can you get a good night's sleep, or do you need melatonin tablets or something similar to get your body to switch off and rest normally at the right time? Boy, that was the biggest issue with flying internationally, especially when you cross a bunch of time zones. Going north-south, you don't cross so many time zones, although the flights down south on my airline left at 11 o'clock at night. So you'd get down there at 10 o'clock in the morning. Well, that's an all-nighter. Now, when I was in college, that seemed like a fun thing to do. At this age, I'm not keen on all-nighters. Flying back and forth across 6 or 7 time zones, you're going to get jet lag. There's no way to get around it. Stay well hydrated. Try to stay as close to your body clock time frame as you can, which means when you get over there, I would lay down for a couple of 3 hours, get a little bit of rest, get up at a normal body clock time. And then when you're coming back from Europe, you're usually getting out to the airport at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning over there, which is usually 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning on your body clock. So I would try to get to bed a little earlier. And yeah, we are allowed to take melatonin. And on occasion, I would take a melatonin to help me sleep. But boy, it was a perpetual issue to deal with all the time, that feeling like a zombie. And everybody deals with it a little bit differently. All right. Captain John writes a question for Captain Steve. I like this. All right. I'm sorry, and I know it's probably my OCD. That AA777 model on your desk, it's bothered me for a way. I know what this is. And I've seriously considered if it's just a deficiency in the model or possibly the camera angle. The horizontal stabilizer is on upside down. All right, hold on. All right, let's fix this once and for all. You guys have lit up the comments. It's incredible to me, every little thing that everybody notices on every video. If anything is out of place or not the way it should be, the comments light up. I was given this model, all right? And apparently whoever put it together put the horizontal stabilizers on upside down. So let's fix it right now. Okay, now look at that. That is much better. Honestly, I didn't even notice it until people started commenting about it. So awesome. Now we've got that fixed. Thank you, Captain John. Matt Pritchard's got the next question. The animal souls question made me think of a related question. If you're transporting a body, do you count it in the number of souls on board? On one hand, I would say, of course, not because it's not a living soul on board. However, if rescue operations were happening and they came across the body, they might count it in the souls on board and accidentally leave someone as missing. Thanks so much for the answer. Wow, that's really thoughtful. I've flown twice with a dead body on board. So it was always a military flight. Service member was killed in action, and then they were brought back in a coffin. There was a ceremony on both ends to honor the fallen. Very touching ceremony. Was that the dead body included on the passenger count on the airplane? That's a really great question. You know what? I'm going to say I don't know the answer to that, but my inclination is to say it should be. Just because of the souls on board. You want to know total human beings, I would say dead or alive, for the very reason that you brought up. If there was ever sort of a rescue at sea or something like that, you'd want to know the total amount of human bodies on board. I understand people that are making comments about pets and believing that your pet has a soul. And I don't want to get into an argument about that. I'm just saying the history of why they ask for souls on board is to identify how many human beings on board. I can't go erase the history of that, and I can't change how they do it today. Do I agree with you that your pet has a soul? I love my pets, love them to death. And I can't imagine life without my pet. But when you want to get down to what is the accurate count for human beings on board, that's why they use the expression souls on board. All right, excellent, excellent question. All right, let's go to our first and only video question this time around. And by the way, if you want to put your question on video, do it in a vertical format, send it to the email in the description down below. Keep your question nice and tight and succinct, and you might make it onto the next episode of Ask the Captain. Let's take a look at this one. This is really odd. Watch this. It's security. What?
Bruh.
It's an eagle.
Heck yeah.
All right, let's watch it again. I got to watch this twice. That's a bald eagle. That is not AI. Okay, that's not AI generated. That's for real. Somebody is bringing a bird through security. I've seen all sorts of things on airplanes that pass as emotional support animals. I've seen peacocks. I didn't see it, but somebody tried to bring a pig on an airplane. Somebody even tried to bring a small horse, one of those little, kitty pony horses on an airplane. Oh my word. Is this allowed? Apparently it is. There's a reason that this eagle is flying someplace, no pun intended. And this might be the easiest flight he's ever had. All right. Most likely this is some sort of sporting event, I would think, someplace where they're going to do some demonstration with an actual eagle, and they need to get that bird to where they need to go, just like a passenger. Here they are going through security. Wow. Have you ever seen anything like that? Let me see it. What's the strangest animal you've ever seen on an airplane? Let me know in the comments, because it might make it on the next episode of Ask the Captain. All right, next one is from Kenny Mazak 2377. Hey, Captain Steve, when you retired, did they spray water over your plane? I recently was on a flight, and it was a captain's final flight, and they had the airport fire department spray water. Do you have a video of your last flight? It would be interesting to see. Take care. God bless, sir. Yes, we do, in fact. And they did, to answer your question. My last flight was from Dublin back to Charlotte, North Carolina. My entire family was on board. My producer, who happens to be my son, brought his whole camera equipment. He had a couple people on the ground already set up to film it. And I was in the cockpit. And on one flight and one flight only, I was allowed to take out my camera and video after I set the parking brake, and the fire crews came out and did the spray across the airplane. So if you go to the Captain Steeeve YouTube channel, which you're probably on right now, go all the way to the channel, type in Finny Flight, F-I-N-I-S, Finny Flight. It stands for final flight, but Finny Flight, it'll pop up. It's a 3.5-minute video, a lot of views. And at the moment that I was filming out the cockpit and they were spraying, the sun hit the spray at just the right angle, and it created a rainbow. And yours truly lost it. I'm crying thinking about it right now. Yeah, it was a very touching moment, and it's a very, very well-made video. I think get your tissues out, because you're going to shed a tear. All right, next question, Billy Payne 3. How does aircraft pressurization work? Do you manually begin pressurizing the cabin upon pushback? Is it automatic? Also, will the masks drop automatically in the event of rapid depressurization, or can you manually drop them? Or let's take all of your questions in reverse order. Yes, I can manually drop the what we call the rubber jungle in the back. I can drop your oxygen mask I think from the captain's seat, the button is right about here. I just have to open the guard and hit it, and all of them drop in the back. It will do it automatically. Most airplanes somewhere in the vicinity of 12 to 13,000 foot of cabin altitude. Normally you fly around at somewhere between 7 and 8,000 foot of cabin altitude. But if you were to lose pressurization inside the airplane, once you go above that about 12,000 foot mark, it automatically deploys all of the masks in the back. And do we do it manually? No. Only the deployment. We don't pressurize the airplane manually. It's all automatic. It starts once I start up the engines, and we start to bring that pressure into the airplane. Once I take off, bring the wheels up, the airplane starts to pressurize depending on what altitude we're at. Very, very good. All right, next is at Robert Wilson 8560. When a transatlantic pilot takes a rest, does he subtract that flight time from his flight hours? The answer to that is yes. And I don't understand it all. So 3 pilots going over to Europe. When I go back on my break, that time is not included in my total flight hours, even though I am the one and only captain on the flight. The second first officer or whoever I put in charge as pilot in command while they're in the flight deck gets that pilot in command time for their time up there. But the pilot on their break, it's subtracted from their total flight time. So let's say it's 9 hours over to Europe. I get credit for 6 flight hours. I don't think it's right. I'm on that airplane for a full 9 hours. Am I still in charge and responsible? Yes, but that's the way they count flight hours. That's the FAA. You might want to write a strongly worded letter to them. All right. At Scripts from the Pages 9540. Dear Captain Steeve, many thanks for making me much less scared to fly. I'm glad you're much less scared to fly. And by the way, a little shameless self-promotion. If you're a fearful flyer, go to CaptainSteeeve.com and there's a fear of flying course that you can purchase and help you get over your fear of flying. Go check that out. What's your opinion of air shows? Ooh, good question. A great spectacle or a huge bore or a tremendous waste or a foolish risk? Well, I'm with you on all of those. I love air shows. I love going to them. Take a lot of sunscreen when you go because you're going to get sunburn. That's probably your biggest risk in an air show. However, they are great spectacles, but we've shown some videos here where things have gone wrong and people have been killed at air shows in the audience. They've tried over the years to change the flight line and where the airplanes actually are. They're a little bit farther away from the crowds now. They don't have anybody flying over the crowds like they used to in the old days, so that if something goes wrong with an airplane, it's only going to affect that airplane and that pilot, not the general public. But for the most part, yeah, they're really safe. And what a great day to be out with the kids and get some cotton candy and just walk around, get your steps in and look at some stuff that's really incredible. I love air shows. I'm a big fan. All right, final question. At Peter Holmes 2089. Hey, Captain Steeve, can you explain why sometimes heavy is added after the call sign in communications? Is it required? Who uses it and when and why? Okay, heavy is required on aircraft that are over 300,000 pounds. So most of your wide body aircraft will have the heavy call sign added at the end. And that's for the airplanes coming behind you so that they know that there's going to be a larger than normal wake turbulence from that aircraft. These are the larger airplanes. Think about when you're driving your boat and there's a large boat that goes by you. The bigger the boat, the bigger the wake off of that boat, and the more you got to pay attention because it might capsize your little canoe. So if you're flying a little canoe through the air and a great big A380 goes in front of you, you're going to want to know about that so you get some distance behind them so you don't get that big wake. The A380 is one of the only aircraft, I don't know if there's any others, that have a different call sign that they tack on the end, and it's super, not heavy. So you know you're behind an A380, which means the wake turbulence is even larger than a normal heavy. Well, now you know. All right, there's your trivia pursuit for the day. Excellent questions. These were fantastic. Folks, thanks. Keep them coming in. Remember those video questions. Give us a nice, tight question, and you might be on the next episode of Ask the Captain. We saw somebody bring an American Eagle through security, of all things, and we learned why you tag heavy at the end of some call signs and not others. If you want to see another episode of Ask the Captain where there are some great questions answered, check out one of these 2 episodes.